Start recording. Looking in the debugger. GlobalData. Okay, so I see what we did wrong. So okay, yeah. The thought was, we could make these top level because it has INI for, it's the initial value. But it seems like it could be valuable, and I've already done it, to separate my global data into, initial values for, starting up. So what everything gets initialized to on boot up, and then, other objects that are not initial values. I think that categorical distinction is important enough to where it justifies having this nesting this deep, right? Because I am going to favor keeping these structs as flat as possible. Flat as in like flat file system. But yeah, I think it's justified to have this initial values struct, so I'm going to keep that. I am going to go into my notes and see if I have that defined. So if I go ini val, okay, so ini underscore val, and then ini val. Nope. So if I type something like that, I am calling it ini val in all capitals. So I'm going to keep that name. And then if you type it correctly, so all capitals, we'll have a check mark to tell you that you guessed correctly or you remembered correctly. The last thing is we also want ini val and ini dash val with all capitals. And ini val means ini val means, ini val means, and okay, so with this we can do ini val, and it stands for initial values when code starts / boots. So when the code starts / boots up, so when the code starts / boots up, / initializes. I cannot spell initialize very well. Like, all forms of the word initialize, I just don't know what the hell I'm doing when I try to type that. Okay. Okay, so just making a note of that. Now these guys in here as well, like these variables, should we make a note of them as well? Oh, we've been going overkill, so initial... I don't really feel like it. We're gonna be lazy. We're gonna enter them, but we're not gonna go full force on these. We're just gonna take all these and we're gonna do something like this. We're gonna take them and we're gonna put token here with the and then paste line, and then we're gonna grab our template for cutting and pasting, and we'll take the source code, this is the source code. The variable name we're gonna look for is token here, and what I mean by token is like a variable token. Token you could also consider like an identifier or a variable name. Okay, we'll paste that, and we should have everything auto-generated. And we don't have, right, we're not going to get too detailed on what this means, but initial viewport values for rec VPC, right? I guess the next thing we could do, so if we really want to, then after this, I swear I'm done. I say that, but maybe not. Okay, we can convert these to lowercase. And just remove the check marks, since now they're being corrected as you write them. We can also convert them to snake case. Oh, snake, what the hell am I doing? What I really mean to say is kebab case. And let's hope this works, because that works all right. Not really what I wanted, but... Okay, converting all these to kebab case. Okay, that's good enough. I'm getting out of control here. So for the source and destination viewports, I don't think I'm really going to set initial values for those. I don't really think I need those. The one of the editors is going to like control those values. Well, hold up. Fair enough, fair enough. So let's... I said that, and then I'm like, I know that in the original code I wrote, VP0 was inset 32 pixels on all edges. So this would be a plus 32, that would be a minus 32. So let's try to keep that as well. And now it's like, okay, we've already defined 2 out of the 3 rectangles, so why don't we just define them all? Sure, why not? What could we define for the source rectangle that would kind of... Yeah, I don't know if I want the source rectangle to have... Yeah, I don't think I should have define the source rectangle in here, because that needs to be generated. That needs to be generated by the editor. The editor is going to kind of manipulate how the VP1 rectangle is moving over the data. But for completeness, what I might want to do is at least say, we could just set trap values here, right? We could set bogus values here again, right? Let's say 0 minus, I don't know, say like this, because I know we did like a different pattern. I think we used like 101, 202, 303, and 404 when we created this. Actually, I bet if I'm lucky, right, if I just go Control F and I go 404, I can find that other one. Yep, so we use 404. It's the only instance of the number 404 in the code. Initialize trap values, and then we're going to keep this last one trap values as well. But now if we see the trap values of all the same number, we know where those trap values were set, as opposed to if we see a negative 404 instead of 4,444. So I think that's valuable. Init to invalid values, because it is responsibility of the editors to control this viewport's position over the GPU texture data. So just a little bit of a note. So the reason why I put it here as well is just for completeness. So you're not like saying, oh, we got this rectangle, we got that rectangle. You're like, okay, well, why do we have 2 out of 3 of the rectangles? So I'm rather than just not providing it, I'm kind of like explicitly not providing these values instead of implicitly not providing them. It's like it's kind of weird to say. It's like it's an explicit 0, I guess. Okay, so we have all these. And one thing we can do really quick is we can make sure certain things that we think should match are actually matching. All right, so those clusters match, and then if we highlight this, right, all of the beginnings should be the same color. Yep, all purple. And then what we'll do really quick is we will highlight each one of these and color them and make sure that everything pops up in the same order really quick, right? So just a visual confirmation that all of these are the same, right? You might say, wow, that's really tedious and that's overkill and that's completely OCD, but I'm going to tell you what, if you keep OCD habits like this, you won't be like pulling your hair out for 3 hours wondering what's wrong with your code because you typed something wrong. Like I don't know, there's a lot of ways you can write a bug, and one of the most preventable bugs is just not typing things wrong, right? Like, obviously you're going to get logic wrong, and, you know, maybe things aren't going together the way you thought, but come on, typing things wrong and getting a bug that takes like 3 hours for you to find, like, no, let's not do that. Let's invest that extra energy into just making sure it's done correctly. And that is kind of like why everything here is lined up so meticulously. And it does take extra time. And yeah, my old boss did not like how I lined everything up. He's like, how do you get into the programming flow if you're, you know, lining everything up meticulously? Well, the thing is that I line things up so often, it's what do you call it? Right, I don't even think about it. I just habitually do it. But I could see how it could be an interruption that interrupts how long it takes to go from one idea to the other, and I could see how that could disrupt your flow. Like how talking on a video could be disrupting my flow. But also taking a little bit longer to verbalize my ideas, explain what I'm doing, I think that could lead to better code. So I'm kind of like, basically, right now, I'm pair programming by myself. Like, whoever you are, if there's anybody listening out there, you're like my rubber duck, you know, if you've heard that expression in programming. Okay, so we know we have this initial, the initial viewport for the client. We know we've already defined that, so, well, you know, over here, because I'm obsessive, client, and we'll just take these like this. Client, and these are, this is, sorry, DST, and the one over here is the source. And we'll just take some time to align everything. Okay, and now we have another redundancy here where we can, quickly check to make sure everything is the same. Okay, so now we're gonna go back to where this is set up. Okay, so we have that set up, and now we can just kind of like populate it here. Right, and now we do kind of have 2 steps of indirection here, right? Because we could have just kept, instead of writing all this code, we could have just kept these rectangles inside of GlobalData, right? And then we wouldn't have to do this extra juggling around of the data like this. I want to try to have a more logical organization than, oh, just dump out, if it's data, just dump it in the global scope, because anything in GlobalData I'm treating as like a file scope variable, even though a file scope variable in JavaScript would be like declared outside of any container or any scope or any function. But I'm going to pretend that this container is file scope, and treat it as such. And so I want to be careful of what I'm just dumping at that level. Okay. Anyway, so we have these rectangles, and now we can just copy paste. And then the next part is we'll just change, so this is rec VP0, and this is rectangle VP1. And then the next part is none of these tokens here should match, right? So if I click all of these, I should only see one light up at a time. And that's a pretty good indicator that I haven't made any mistakes. I mean, you still could have made some mistakes, and maybe these values don't like light up, and they do. So we're good there. That looks good. That looks good. Adapter graphics. Okay, that looks good. We got all those rectangles set up. We still need to use the VPC, the viewport client, to do the call to the oh no, what did we screw up? Where was I when this happened? Oh, so one more thing. We need to, right, it's GlobalData.initialValues, and if we do that, we're going to go over our column limit just a bit. Not a fan of that. So what we will do is we could do, so usually I use all capitals, and it's like one letter with an underscore. I don't know, this is what I do when I'm like making macros, like making temporary variables in C. So this is what I'm going to do, and it's going to be, we're going to take this. And so this is like, this is as if I declared a macro, this, that is equal to this, so I can write this a little bit shorthanded temporarily. And then we can just put I and V here, and that's for, initial values. That's why I have I and V. So some type of abbreviation that is sensible. And we use this abbreviation so that it's less likely to collide with other places in the code. But it's only temporary, right? We just wanted to use it here and be done with it, correct? So we really should put this in a scope so that that variable doesn't escape. But we have another problem, and that is this is block scope, and the var keyword is function scope. So I very rarely use the let keyword, but this would be a time for the let keyword to make absolutely sure this doesn't escape this block. So, and then we could make a var. So this is well, it's not really variable scope. It's more like a let scope, right? Because it's let's be more proper. This is block scope, right? We can just make a note, block scope, right? So if you just see, because I don't think many programmers do this, or maybe I just haven't seen it done very often, but I don't see this much in code where people just make random scopes. Because when I saw a random scope in code once upon a time, I'm like, what the hell is that? Okay, so with that, I just want to check, because I actually, I never use the let keyword, because I like to keep things simple, and I'm just going to stick with var everywhere unless I absolutely need to use the let keyword, right? Because now we have this one keyword where before we could just click anywhere we use the word var and we could see all of our variables, but you won't be able to see it here. And we might want to, if we want to make sure that we can find this by clicking var, I guess we could, make that in a comment, but let keyword JavaScript. We're going to take a search for the let keyword in JavaScript and kind of see what we can find. I'm going to full screen this. So keywords valid. This reserved words. What the fucking hell? Oh, what? Huh? Oh, I see. I thought I had. Okay, so let's see. Let JavaScript. MDN, is that Microsoft? No, Mozilla Developer, not Network. MDN, MSDN. Okay, I see what's going on there. The let statement declares a block scoped local variable. That's why I wrote block scope earlier. So let me go over there if you don't remember. So right here I wrote block scope because this is the scope here, and then block scope here, so I know the intention of these brackets. Okay, so if we run this, expected output. Okay, so I would not, so I understand why they have this example, but boy, I would not do that. So this is, what this is right here. That is called, I'm sure there's other names of it. Well, some people will call this variable hiding. I would call it variable shadowing, because variable hiding might refer to encapsulation. Or data hiding, right? But I call this variable shadowing. It means since we've redeclared it in a tighter scope, it hides this declaration here. So this x is a different variable than this x, which is really confusing. So what I would like to test, though, is is there another way we can do this as an example? So another way we could do this example is some scope and then let x equal 5, and then we'll just do like a console.log x, and then outside of here, right, then we just say console.log x, and then we'll run that. Error, x is not defined, which is correct. X is not defined. I don't think it would give me an error. I thought it would just tell me undefined. Okay, so there it is. So x is not defined because it left the scope. If we change that to var, though, right, and then we do the another console.log out here, and we use that, now it's going to leak out because variables are function scope, and this is block scope. So if we run that, we get 4 and 4, right? Okay, so I was just doing a sanity check, making sure that I remembered, how that worked in JavaScript, and I do have that correct. So let's make sure the code is still running. We made those changes, so I think if we refresh right now, I think we'll unbreak our code, hopefully. Or not, or we could just be fucked. Okay, let's go take a look. GlobalData.ini and then it just doesn't exist. Let's refresh here. Adapter graphics dot oh. Rec VPC. Oh, you know what? So just looking at that, I can tell that these constructors, I forgot to return the value from the constructor. So if I go into the new rec, yeah, so right here, I need to actually have a return statement and return the object, right? So now if we do that and we go back to the code, and then I got to start a new video soon. If we go back here now and we refresh this, where we put the breakpoint, there we go. So now we can see that we've initialized all of our rectangles to trap values from the constructor. And, you know, since we're here, we might as well step through it, right? Where can we put a, come on, let me put a breakpoint somewhere here. Okay, so let's go through this. And now if we look at these rectangles, okay, 0 to 512 and 0 to 512. And this one is, you know, the same 512 by 512, but we've inset it 32 pixels on each border, on each edge, because I want to match what I did in the previous project. And then this one should still be trap values, right? So these are still negative invalid values, but they're different values than what the constructor sets. So when I look at these negative 111s, 444s, it can be like, I can go Control F 4444, and I can find that in the code and kind of like easily, I can statically analyze the code to figure out where that 444 is coming from, right? But yeah, so that looks good. So hopefully when I run this, it doesn't. Yes, that's good. Okay, so let's look at the console. Console still looks good. There's no errors, and we have our image again. So I need to stop recording, and then we're gonna get to the. Actually, does it already work? No, it doesn't look like it. So we gotta figure out the handlers for the clicks, right? Because I was doing that, and then I got sidetracked by these rectangles, which are necessary, right? Because it was in the previous project. But yeah, so we'll get to that in the next video.